He was the voice of America's heartland. Funny, unshakable, larger than life. But beneath the charm, Blake Shelton carried scars few ever knew. From the loss that nearly broke him, to the romance that captured the world, and the silence that followed when it all began to fall. Blake Shelton has long stood as one of the most recognized and beloved figures in country music. A man whose songs have carried warmth, honesty, and a touch of humor that made him both relatable and admirable to millions of listeners around the world. His career, decorated with chart-topping singles, successful albums, and a high-profile role on television, has always unfolded in the bright light of public attention. Yet that same spotlight, which so often lighted his talent and personality, recently turned toward a more vulnerable side of his life, revealing challenges go far beyond the stage, behind the jokes, the calm southern charm, and image of the sexiest man alive. Shelton has wrestled with personal turmoil that left him questioning not only his career, but also his sense of self. In interviews and candid moments, he confessed that the sense of glamour faded once that title slipped away, almost as though part of his public identity dissolved the moment the world stopped calling him the most attractive man. To him, the appeal seemed temporary, vanishing as soon as the accolades ended, leaving him to grapple with questions of worth and identity even years of fame could not answer. Fans who had long seen him as a rock of stability in the unpredictable world of country music began to sense that beneath the surface, Shelton was entering one of the most difficult chapters of his journey, a chapter marked by heartbreak, disappointment, and a growing feeling of isolation despite millions of eyes fixed on him. The tension became especially evident after the American Music Awards in Los Angeles in 2025, an event traditionally to celebrate creativity, glamour, and artistic triumph. Instead of basking in applause and recognition, Shelton found himself surrounded by whispers of controversy, heavy emotions, and rumors that spiraled out of control before he even had a chance to speak for himself. Expectations had been high that night. Many fans believed that he and Gwen Stefani, his longtime partner and one half of a beloved celebrity couple, would share the stage, or at the very least, walk the red carpet together, sending a reassuring message that their bond remained strong after years of navigating challenges in both their personal and professional lives. But as cameras flashed and anticipation built, only Stefani emerged in front of the press, dressed in a metallic gown that gleamed beneath the lights, smiling confidently as though nothing were amiss. Shelton's absence, however, quickly overshadowed her dazzling presence. Within minutes, speculation ignited. Social media buzzed with theories about why he had chosen to skip the event, and whispers circulated that tension between the two stars had escalated behind the scenes. According to reports, Shelton had been unsettled by last-minute changes to the performance they were supposed to share. Stefani had rewritten portions of the lyrics to a song they were planning to perform together, and Shelton allegedly discovered the changes shortly before the show. For an artist who values honesty and emotional integrity in his music, the idea of performing altered words that carried a message he did not agree with felt like a betrayal. What had been intended as a unifying moment before millions instead became a dividing line that Shelton could not bring himself to cross. The situation became even more complicated when Stefani performed her new song, No Apology Required, a bold pop rock track filled with lyrics about betrayal, distance, and resilience in the face of broken harmony. For the audience, it was impossible not to link the content of the performance to the rumors already swirling about her relationship with Shelton. Instead of presenting a picture of unity, the moment seemed to underline the possibility of cracks in their partnership. Fans who had come hoping for reassurance left the show with more doubts than ever, and the story quickly dominated headlines. In the days that followed, social media platforms overflowed with speculation, theories, and heartfelt messages from concerned fans. Some believed Stefani had used their stage as a platform to deliver a veiled message to the world about her relationship, while others focused on Shelton's absence, questioning why he had chosen to remain silent instead of offering clarity. When he finally broke a thought silence, it was with a cryptic message online that suggested sometimes words are not necessary, that silence itself can communicate more than any song. Far from settling the matter, his brief statement only fueled curiosity, leaving his followers both worried and deeply sympathetic, sending waves of support to a man they feared was hurting more than he would admit. As though the personal strain were not enough, Shelton soon faced another painful professional setback. His much-anticipated album, Backroads and Heartaches, which had been slated for release in June 2025, was suddenly delayed by his record label. For Shelton, this project was more than just another addition to his disc. It was a deeply personal collection of songs that reflected the trials of love, heartbreak, and his transition into a new phase of life. After stepping back from The Voice, he had poured his emotions into the record, crafting melodies and lyrics that revealed his most vulnerable thoughts. But the label feared that releasing it, amid the storm of rumors and controversies, would bury the music beneath tabloid chatter. They decided to postpone the release, hoping to wait until public attention shifted to Shelton. The delay was devastating. Music had always been his sanctuary, the constant source of healing through heartbreak. And now, even that comfort seemed to be slipping away when Honey did it most. Friends close to him revealed that he admitted the decision left him shaken, almost as though his safe space had been taken away at the exact moment he required it most. For those who know Shelton best, these were troubling signs. Though he has always projected humor, charm, and a laid-back demeanor, friends have long known that he tends to hide his deepest struggles behind a smile. The combination of public pressure, a faltering relationship, and disappointment in his career weighed heavily on him. And this time, the emotional burden appeared different from anything he had faced before. He had endured heartbreak in the past, most notably his 2015 divorce from Miranda Lambert, which had unfolded under the relentless scrutiny of fans and the media. But those who stood by him explained that the current situation struck at a deeper level. Unlike before, many had believed his relationship with Stefani was steady, a partnership that had weathered storms and to find old doubts resurfacing was for Shelton a painful reminder that stability in both love and career could be fragile. Meanwhile, Stefani's silence after the American Music Awards further fueled speculation. Some saw it as a calculated decision to avoid inflaming controversy, while others believed it signaled her intent to step out of the shadow of a power couple image and reclaim her individuality as an artist. Indeed, critics pointed out that her performance reflected a return to the bold energy of her early solo career, reminiscent of her Tragic Kingdom days, suggesting she might be preparing to embark on a new chapter, independent of her identity, alongside Shelton. Wealthy World speculated Shelton retreated to his ranch in Oklahoma, far from the bright lights of Los Angeles and New York. Surrounded by the open countryside, he focused on family life, outdoor routines, and songwriting, seeking comfort in the simple rhythms of ranch work. Friends described him as drawing strength from quiet solitude, channeling his pain into lyrics that they believed might one day emerge as some of his most moving work. His story had shown that Shelton often created his most powerful songs during moments of hardship, turning personal loss into music that resonated with listeners on a deeply emotional level. Fans, remembering how his past heartbreaks produced timeless hits, hoped that, out of this confusion and sorrow, new music would arise that spoke directly to their own struggles. For now, Shelton offered no clear answers about his relationship or his album, but those who followed his journey closely trusted that resilience had always been his defining quality. To understand how he might find his way forward, it helps to look back at the roots of his story. Born Blake Tollison Shelton on June 18, 1976 in Ada, Oklahoma, he was raised by a mother who owned a beauty salon and a father who worked as a car salesman. Music became part of his world early on, and by the age of 12, his uncle had taught him to play guitar. Within just a few years, he was writing songs of his own, revealing a talent that seemed destined for a bigger stage. At 16, he was recognized with the Dembo Diamond Award in his home state, affirming his growing potential. Yet, his teenage years were not without. In November 1990, his older brother Richie died in a car accident, just 24 years old, an event that left a permanent mark on Shelton's heart, and later echoed through his music. By 17, determined to chase his dream, he moved to Nashville, where he began working at a music publishing company. While honing his craft, industry veterans soon took notice. In 1997, songwriter Bobby Braddock helped him secure a production deal with Sony, setting him on the path to professional success. Shelton's early career carried its share of disappointments when he signed with Giant Records in the late 1990s. His first major single, I Want to Talk About Me, was pulled from him and given instead to Toby Keith, who went on to turn it into a #1 hit. Despite the setback, Shelton pressed forward, and by 2001, his debut single, Austin, caught the attention of critics and fans alike, praised for its heartfelt delivery and creativity. The song climbed the charts and proved Shelton's voice was one to be reckoned with, even as critics debated whether his style leaned too heavily into alternative country trends. These beginnings revealed the persistence that would carry him through both highs and lows in the years ahead. His true breakthrough came in 2011 with the release of Red River Blue. The album's lead single, Honeybee, shattered records, becoming fastest song by a male country artist to reach gold certification. Within 10 weeks, it reached number 1 in the charts, solidifying Shelton as a dominant force in the genre. The album itself debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, while follow-up singles like God Gave Me You, Drink on It, and Over each found success, giving him a streak of consecutive number 1 hits that positioned him as one of country music's most reliable hitmakers. Recognition poured in, including the Gene Weed Special Achievement Award at 2013 Academy of Country Music Awards, acknowledging not only his music, but also his growing influence. As a coach on The Voice. Through the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, Shelton continued to adapt, releasing fully loaded God's Country, which featured hits like God's Country and Hellrite. Even in uncertain times, his connection with audiences never wavered, underscoring the foundation of trust and relatability that defined his career. By the mid-2020s, Shelton had become not only a multi-platinum artist, but also an enduring cultural figure, a man whose journey from a small town in Oklahoma to international fame embodied resilience, transformation, and the ability to turn struggles into songs that touched millions. One truth stands clear: Blake Shelton's journey is not defined solely by his hits or his television fame, but by the way he continues to rise from hardship, turning personal trials into universal songs. His path reminds us that even when the spotlight feels like a burden and the world's eyes feel heavy, strength can be found in silence, in songwriting, and in the courage to keep moving forward. Whatever comes next for Shelton, his legacy as an artist who transformed his life into music that heals and inspires is already secure. Yet, as his supporters know well, his greatest work may still lie ahead, born from this very moment of struggle, waiting to become the songs that once again carry millions through their own stories of heartbreak and hope. Blake Shelton's story cannot be fully understood without pausing to look at the environment that shaped him long before the stages, the awards, and the television cameras. Born in the quiet town of Ada, Oklahoma, Shelton was immersed in a world where life revolved around family values, community gatherings, and a steady rhythm of country living. Ada was not a place where fame seemed likely, but it provided him with grounding influence that would serve him for decades to come. His mother, Dorothy, worked tirelessly at her beauty salon, not only to provide for her children, but also to build a nurturing environment where creativity and personality thrived. His father, Richard, approached life with the straightforwardness of a car salesman who understood hard work, negotiation, and resilience. His combination of practicality from his father and warmth from his mother shaped Shelton's unique blend of humor and sensitivity, qualities that fans would later recognize in his songs and television appearances. By the time he was 12, Shelton had already developed a fascination with music. His uncle, who recognized the spark in him, taught him how to strum chords on the guitar. What might have been a passing hobby for another child quickly turned into an obsession for Shelton. He would spend hours practicing, figuring out how music could capture feelings he often struggled to express in words. This early discovery provided him with an outlet that felt deeply personal, and songwriting became his way of making sense of the world. By 15, he was already writing original material, weaving stories into melody with a maturity that impressed those around him. At 16, Shelton's growing talent was recognized formally when he received the Deanbo Diamond Award, an honor in Oklahoma that spotlighted promising young musicians. Yet, his teenage years were also marked by a tragedy that would shape his emotional depth for the rest of his life. In November of 1990, his older brother, Richie, died in a car accident at just 24. For a young teenager still figuring out who he was, the loss was devastating. Shelton hasn't spoken of how that moment left a permanent scar, one that he carried into adulthood. The grief told him early on thought life was fragile, unpredictable, and often cruel, but it also gave him a well of emotion to draw from when he turned to songwriting. Many of the heartfelt ballads he would write years later carried echoes of that loss, even when the lyrics were about love or heartbreak. For Shelton, Richie's absence was always present in his music. After high school, Shelton made the bold choice to move to Nashville. At just 17, he left behind the familiar comforts of Oklahoma for the unpredictable chaos of the music capital. He carried with him not only ambition, but also a willingness to start from the bottom. He worked for a music publishing company, learning the business from the inside while continuing to develop his own craft. Nashville was competitive, filled with talented hopefuls chasing the summer dream, and Shelton quickly realized that success would not come easily. Yet his persistence paid off when songwriter Bobby Braddock, known for hits across multiple decades, recognized his talent and helped him secure a contract with Sony in 1997. That opportunity opened the doors, but it was only the beginning of a long road. The late 1990s brought Shelton both opportunities and disappointments. When he signed with Giant Records, he was promised a debut single that could launch his career. The song I Want to Talk About Me, however, was ultimately given to Toby Keith, who went on to turn it into a massive hit. For Shelton, it was a harsh lesson, a butho. The industry worked, reminding him that timing and luck were as important as talent. Still, he refused to give up. His own debut came in 2001 with the single Austin. The song struck a chord with listeners, telling the story of love and misconnections in a way that was both fresh and deep. Critics praised its creativity, and the track quickly climbed the charts, staying at number 1 on the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart for 5 weeks. With Austin, Shelton proved that his voice could cut through the noise of a crowded industry. Yet, success never arrived in a straight. Early critics were divided on Shelton's style, some arguing that his work leaned too much into the alternative country trend of the early 2000s. But Shelton was never a man to mold himself completely to fight expectations. Instead, he focused on blending traditional country storytelling with modern sensibilities, a balance that would eventually become his trademark. The persistence paid off as he gradually built a reputation, not only for his vocal talent but also for the raw honesty of his lyrics. As the years progressed, Shelton's career gained momentum. By the time he released Red River Blue in 2011, he had already established himself as a consistent presence in the country music world. But this album took him to a new level. Its lead single Honeybee became a runaway success, shattering digital sales records for male country singers. Within weeks, it was certified gold, and soon after, it climbed to the top of the charts. The album itself debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, cementing Shelton as one of the genre's leading voices. Follow-up singles like God Gave Me You, Drink on It, and Overreach found similar success, giving him a streak of consecutive number 1s that few could match. By this point, Shelton had gone from being a hopeful in Nashville to one of the most reliable hitmakers in country music. During this time, Shelton's personal life was also in the public eye. His marriage to fellow country superstar Miranda Lambert had been celebrated as a union of two of the genre's brightest stars. To many, they embodied the idea of counter-royalty, balancing careers while sharing a personal bond. Yet, behind the scenes, the marriage faced pressures that few outsiders could understand. The constant demands of touring, the scrutiny of tins, and the rumors that surrounded celebrity relationships all took their toll. In July 2015, the couple announced their divorce, shocking fans and sending ripples through the music world. For Shelton, it was not just the end of a marriage, but also the loss of a personal anchor during a time when his career was demanding more than ever. Rather than retreat from the public eye, Shelton channeled his heartbreak into music. In 2016, he released If I'm Honest, an album that reflected his emotional state in the aftermath of divorce. Songs like Came Here to Forge a Hand, She's Got Away with Words carried raw emotion, revealing a man who was using music to process pain. Fans connected deeply with the honesty of the lyrics, and the album found commercial. Shelton demonstrated once again that his greatest strength as an artist lay in his ability to turn personal experiences into universal stories. At the same time, Shelton was building an entirely new level of fame through television. As a coach on NBC's The Voice, he became a household name beyond the country music world. His humor, quick wit, and supportive coaching style made him a fan favorite, while his friendly rivalry with Adam Levine created some of the show's most memorable moments. Season after season, Shelton guided contestants to victory, proving that his influence extended beyond his own performances. His role on the show showcased another side of him, the mentor who could nurture talent, offer honest advice, and celebrate the success of others. For millions of viewers, Shelton was no longer just a country singer. He was a personality, a presence, and a cultural figure who could make audiences laugh while also moving them with heartfelt performances. It was on The Voice that Shelton's relationship with Gwen Stefani began, a partnership that seemed improbable at first glance, but quickly blossomed into one of the entertainment world's most talked about romances. Coming from different musical backgrounds, he from the world of country, she from pop and rock, their connections surprised fans. Yet, the contrast only seemed to strengthen their bond, and soon the couple became a staple of both entertainment, news, and fan discussions. Collaborations between the two produced heartfelt duets that highlighted their chemistry, while their public appearances showed a relationship that balanced playfulness with genuine. For years, they stood as an example of how love could emerge in unexpected places, defying decalenges of fame and public scrutiny. But as the 2020s progressed, cracks began to appear. The pressures of fame, the weight of constant public attention, and the inevitable differences in their careers created tension. By 2025, as the American Music Awards controversy unfolded, their relationship was once again under the microscope. For Shelton, who had already endured one painful public divorce, the possibility of history repeating itself felt especially difficult. The disappointment of missing the award show, the sting of hearing lyrics that seemed to and the subsequent silence from Stefani left him facing not only professional challenges, but I'll say personal uncertainty. While he retreated to his Oklahoma ranch, the world debated what would come. Was this the end of a beloved celebrity couple? Would his delayed album ever see the light of day? Would return to The Voice or focus solely on music? For Shelton, these questions were secondary to the need for healing. Those close to him described a man who preferred the simplicity of ranch life, who found solace in family, and in the everyday tasks that grounded him far from the chaos of the industry. What has always defined Shelton, however, is his resilience. Time and again, he has faced heartbreak, disappointment, and loss, only to emerge with music that resonates deeply with listeners. Fans remain hopeful that the same will happen again, that out of confusion and sorrow will come songs that capture the universal human experience of love, loss, and the search for meaning. Already, many point out that Shelton's greatest work has often been born of his hardest struggles. His ability to weave personal stories into melodies that comfort others is what has kept his career not only alive, but thriving for decades. As the future unfolds, Shelton stands at another crossroads. His journey from a small-town boy in Ada to one of the biggest names in country music has been anything but smooth. Along the way, he has faced tragedy, heartbreak, success, and reinvention. What remains constant is his ability to find strength in vulnerability, to use music as a bridge between his personal pain and the collective emotions of his audience. In this way, his story is not just about country music or television fame. It is about resilience, the courage to keep creating, and the understanding that even in the darkest moments, there is potential for beauty. Blake Shelton's legacy is already secure, but as fans know, his story is far from over. Whether the next chapter brings reconciliation, new music, or fresh beginnings, one truth remains. Shelton will continue to transform the raw materials of life, love, loss, hope, and struggle into songs that remind us all of the power of honesty and heart. For every listener who has ever leaned on his music during a hard time, the promise of what he creates next is not just entertainment, but a form of connection, a reassurance that none of us walk through heartbreak alone. Blake Shelton's music has always been more than radio-friendly hits or chart-topping singles. It has been a diary in melody, a collection of confessions written in a voice that resonates with both strength and vulnerability. To fully understand his journey, one must trace how each album mirrored the state of his heart and mind at the time it was. His early records carried the energy of a young artist eager to prove himself in Nashville, while the latter works bore the weight of lived experience, heartbreak, healing, and the shifting balance between private and public life. When listeners revisit his debut track, Austin, they hear more than a love song. They hear the story of a young man channeling sincerity into his art, hoping that someone somewhere would hear his voice and connect with it. This song, which spent weeks at #1, was a glimpse of Shelton's ability to blend vulnerability with simplicity, a gift that would define his career. As his discography expanded, Shelton began balancing upbeat, good-humored tracks with heartfelt ballads that dug into themes of loss and longing. The juxtaposition of songs like Some Beach with its humor and lightheartedness against deeply emotional numbers such as The Baby showcased the two sides of the entertainer who could make people laugh and the storyteller who could make them cry. Fans came to expect both, recognizing that Shelton embodied the duality of country music itself, a genre that celebrates both joy and sorrow, whiskey-soaked laughter, and late-night tears. The 2011 album Red River Blue represented a turning point in his career, and not only because of its commercial success. Tracks like Honey Bee revealed his playful side, while God Gave Me You highlighted his ability to adopt a song written by another artist and breathe life into it in a way that felt entirely his own. Their chord success coincided with Shelton's growing fame on The Voice, marking the start of a period when he became both a household name and a cultural touchstone. Shelton's tenure on The Voice deserves its own chapter in his story. Initially brought on as one of the original 4 coaches, he quickly proved that his humor, honesty, and warmth were not just stage personas, but reflections of his true character, while his fellow coaches brought their own distinct styles. Adam Levine with his pop rock swagger, Christina Aguilera with her powerhouse diva energy, and CEO Green with his eccentric creativity. Shelton provided grounding with his southern charm, and his banter with Levine became legendary, giving audiences a comedic subplot that ran parallel to the competition itself. Fans stormed in not only to watch aspiring singers chase their dreams, but also to witness Shelton's playful jabs, unexpected one-liners, and genuine mentorship. Behind the humor, however, Shelton took his role as a coach seriously. Contestants often spoke about how he balanced lighthearted encouragement with clear, constructive advice. He listened deeply to their stories, connected their emotions to song choices, and reminded them that authenticity was more important than vocal gymnastics. His consistent wins on the show were not accidents. They were the result of a philosophy rooted in honesty, patience, and empathy. In an industry often accused of prioritizing image over substance, Shelton's approach felt refreshing. His influence extended far beyond the show, as many of his mentees launched successful careers, carrying forward pieces of the wisdom he had instilled in them. Yet, even as his career soared, Shelton's personal life remained a complex journey. His divorce from Miranda Lambert in 2015 was not just a celebrity breakup, it was a cultural event in the country music world. Their marriage had been celebrated as a union of two titans, and their separation left fans divided, some siding with him, others with her. The pain of that breakup seeped into his music, and if I'm honest, emerged as one of his most revealing works. Songs like Came Here to Forget and She's Got Away, with words were more than radio hits. They were raw outpourings of a man piecing himself back together. Listeners recognized the catharsis in the lyrics and, in turn, found solace for their own heartbreaks. Out of that personal darkness came an unexpected light. His relationship with Gwen Stefani, what began as two coaches on The Voice, supporting each other through parallel divorces, blossomed into one of the most talked about romances in entertainment. At first, many dismissed it as an unlikely match. How could a Southern country singer and a California-born pop icon find common ground? But as their relationship unfolded, it became clear that their bond was built on shared vulnerability. Both had faced heartbreak, both were asking questions about identity and reinvention, and both found in each other a partner who could understand the unique pressures of fame. Their public image as a couple brought a sense of joy to fans. Duets such as Nobody But You and Happy Anywhere gave the world glimpses of their chemistry, not only as romantic partners, but also as art. Their performances together were not just polished acts, they were authentic displays of action that resonated with audiences who wanted to believe in the possibility of love after heartbreak. For Shelton, who had once admitted he doubted he would ever find such a bond again, the relationship with Stefani was both healing and inspiring. But love under a spotlight is never simple. As the years went by, the pressures of managing careers, raising Stefani's children, and navigating the relentless attention of the media began to weigh heavily. Shelton, who valued privacy and the quiet of Oklahoma, sometimes clashed with the demands of Stefani's world, rooted in pop culture, fashion, and constant reinvention. The two worked to find balance, but by 2025, cracks became harder to ignore. The American Music Awards incident highlighted the strain with Shelton's absence and Stefani's perfume, stirring speculation that their love story might not be as steady as fans believed. The timing could not have been worse, as Shelton was also dealing with the disappointment of his delayed album, Backroads and Heartaches. For an artist who used music as therapy, the label's decision to postpone the release felt like a silencing of his. He had poured his experiences into that project, weaving together songs that spoke of resilience, reflection, and the aftermath of change. To have it shelved for fear of distraction left him feeling robbed of his outlet. For Shelton, music was never just business, it was his lifeline, and losing control over its release was a painful reminder of how fame can strip even the most successful artists of agency. During this period, Shelton withdrew from the spotlight, choosing instead to spend time at his Oklahoma ranch. For him, the wide-open spaces, the rhythm of French work, and the presence of family and close friends offered the grounding he could not find in Hollywood. Fasu, who knew him best, explained that his humor remained intact, but underneath was a man carrying a heavy burden. Silence, once his coping mechanism, became his shield again. Yet in that silence, creativity often stirred. Historically, Shelton's most moving songs had emerged during moments of deep struggle, and many fans believed this period of uncertainty would eventually produce music that spoke directly to the heart of the human condition. Shelton's cultural impact extends beyond his personal story. He has played a crucial role in shaping modern country music, bridging the gap between traditional storytelling and mainstream appeal. While some purists critiqued his willingness to embrace pop country trends, others argued that he helped bring the genre to a wider audience, introducing millions to country music who might not otherwise have listened. His ability to blend humor, heartbreak, and relatability has made him an ambassador for a style of country that feels both authentic and accessible. Younger artists often cite him as an influence, not only for his music, but also for his career longevity. Critics and cultural observers have also pointed out the way Shelton has redefined aspects of masculinity in country music. While he often projects the image of a rugged, beer-drying, down-to-earth guy, his willingness to share vulnerability through his songs presents a more complex portrait. He is a man unafraid to laugh at himself, to admit heartbreak, and to express longing, proving that strength and openness are not mutually exclusive. In a genre that sometimes leans heavily on stereotypes of stoic toughness, Shelton's balance, humor, and sincerity has broadened the possibilities for male country singers who follow him. In the end, Shelton's journey is not just the story of a country music star, but of a man who has continually transformed hardship into creativity, laughter into resilience, and heartbreak into connection. His life reminds us that fame does not shield anyone from pain, but it can offer a platform to share that pain in ways that comfort others. As fans await the next chapter, whether in the form of new music, a reconciliation, or a reinvention, one truth remains unshakable. Blake Shelton has built a legacy not only on talent, but also on honesty, and that is what ensures his place in the hearts of millions. Titling I love making an album, but titling it has never been Anno. It was up to you. I mean, look what the name of my title is. For recreational use only.